If I'm not mistaken, I believe this is probably the first time I have ever spoken about Tamera and her husband, Adam Housley, ever on any of the various channels that I've had, including this one. Now, Harvey has spoken about Tamera and her husband a boatload of times to the point where I don't even have to look up anything about them to really get a gist of how I'm gonna go at this with this particular video and the topic I'm going to discuss. So last week we all know was the 4th of July. Many of us don't celebrate it, to be quite honest, and I'm fine with that. But you want to know who is not okay with that? Adam Housley, Tamera Mowry-Housely's husband, who, by the way, works for Fox News. Which, by the way, I just recently found out that Tamera Mowry was the one that actually got him that job. I don't know if it was the job at the actual Fox News place, but she got him a job, and eventually he probably worked his way up and got somewhere else, and that's where he's at now. So basically, he was a fuck boy when he met her, so to speak, and she cleaned him up, so to speak. And last week we know was the 4th. And we all know that white people hold it's 2 days I believe that white people really hold near and dear to their heart because it shows that true American quote unquote patriotism. Well, actually it's more than two, but these two in particular. That's the 4th of July or Independence Day and Patriots Day quote unquote, which is known as 9/11. Watch when 9/11 roll around and watch how all of them become so-called patriotic. They only become patriotic like 4 times of the year. Memorial Day, Veterans Day, the 4th of July, and 9/11. Any other day, they are truly acting out their non-patriotic nature, or as I like to call them, fake patriots. But back to the topic at hand. He put out a tweet or some kind of social media post. I'm going to put it like that because I'm not sure where he posted it at. That in so many words, and I'm summing it up because it was a pretty lengthy post that has since been deleted when he faced the backlash, that all Americans should celebrate the 4th, and basically saying that if you don't celebrate it, that you're un-American and things of that nature. Why didn't he just say black people? Because I know it was mostly black people that was the ones that were saying they didn't celebrate it. And why should they? Black people were still enslaved in 1776 when the Declaration of Independence was signed. We did not get our quote unquote freedom from chattel slavery until 1865, which is well over 100 years after that damn document was signed. That means your wife's ancestors were still in chains and in bondage, Adam Housley, and your ancestors were still enslaving hers. Amazing how that cycle works. And now she ended up marrying, most likely, he married into slave master's heir, if you want to call it that. Let's face it, the majority of white people who were born here and have family lineage that goes way back into those times are heirs of slave masters and slave owners. They'll never admit to that, but they are. Just like we are the inheritance of slaves. Black people will admit that until we turn blue in the face or until we're dead. It's something we don't want to talk about, but we have to talk about because it's part of our history. Now, he's pulling the same thing that I've noticed that a lot of white people love to do when it comes to black people and when black people have opposing views that do not line up with theirs. Whenever we decide to go against something or resist against, something that is in their own interest, they get mad and they become very, very violent in their tone. I was in I guess you could say a discussion where someone has said that, believe it or not, black people, and some of you may or may not believe this, but I actually believe this to be true, that black people are the most resistant to white people than any other race. Look at how the Asians have adapted to white people, or how the Hispanic community has adapted to white people in other groups. That's why a lot of them get set asides and go aheads, and while we don't, because we have resisted them for far too long. And to be quite honest, I don't think that they would want us to try to line up with them as a collective anyway, because we would end up surpassing them. You see how when we surpass them in things like athleticism and sheer raw talent, just imagine if we was to meet up with them in business and entrepreneurship, we would fly by them like a beam of light. That's another reason why they really don't want us to like be on their level. They don't want to compete. But back to the topic at hand. It's that mentality that he and many other white people have, that when we say we're not going to celebrate this, we're not going to do this, then they'll say we're unpatriotic, we don't like this. And see, if they say they like the police and we say fuck the police, then they'll say we are anti-police. If we say that we are all for our people and black first, then they'll say, well, what about everybody? They'll be quick to say, we say Black Lives Matter, they'll say, what about all lives matter? See how they literally come up with things to say and or do with their actions in order to try to get us to line up with their viewpoint, but we just cannot relate. We are not equal in any sense of the word equality. That equality thing is a myth that they came up with to make themselves feel and look good. And now when you're thinking of the quote unquote black and browning of America, as far as, you know, the image of how America is looking after it's been so predominantly white for decades, now they're really losing it. Because see, today it's we don't like 4th of July. Tomorrow it's whatever else they can pull out of their hat. It's like one extreme leads to another extreme for them. And usually these so-called extremes that is going on and going forward aren't even deemed extremes to us, but to them it is. Why do you think they keep having all these rallies and things of that nature? Unite the right, and these, like that one they got coming up next month. As a matter of fact, it's a month away today. What are they going to talk about? They going to meet up in DC to have some kind of white civil rights. What civil rights were violated of yours? White people never had to have civil rights. Y'all never had to fight for the right to be acknowledged, or to be quote unquote seen, or to get quote unquote ahead. Everything was laid out for you. The foundation has been laid down for you. If you as a white person in this establishment cannot find your footing on this establishment's grounds, then I think that's just the waste of your whiteness. That's why when I be seeing white bums trying to get money and food and everything like that, I'm like, that's just the waste of your whiteness. But people like Adam Housley, they are the worst of the worst. Like, they have this ego that's saying, well, if you don't like it this way, then it's no way at all. I would sometimes wish I could be a fly on the wall in their household. Like, how does he talk to Tamera when the cameras are not rolling? And I remember when she, years ago, when that show, the real first got started, and they used to always have their husbands on there, and she would bring him on there. She would always talk so highly of him, and then you hear his tone now, and it's like she was fluffing that up for the cameras. Because now we know who he truly is. Like, we know who this guy is now. She made a huge mistake marrying this guy. A huge mistake. And I bet you there's a certain level of brainwashing going on there too. I hate to say it, but Tamera is probably knee deep in the sunken place. And while I'm on the focus of Tamera, something else came to my attention. The rapper Remy Ma, and of course her husband Papoose, posted up a video about, them, about their wedding, them being married, and I think announcing her pregnancy or something like that, or it may have been another video. And that was celebrating black love and everything like that. How about Tamera Mowry took her ditzy self over to their page, instead of saying just congratulations and everything like that, she actually had the nerve to hashtag interracial love matters or something to that effect. I said, oh, really now? Mind you, Remy Ma and Papoose are both black. I'm sure y'all know this already though. And to my knowledge, the people went under, because on Instagram you can reply to people now. They went in on her ass, and rightfully so. What would possess you to write a comment like that under a page that is featuring a black couple? Why would you do that? All you had to do was leave your congrats and leave. That's it. Like everybody else. Why would you do that? Like, that rubbed me the wrong way. And she didn't even leave that comment anywhere near me. Like, that pissed me off. I don't know. It's like, now I see another reason why a lot of people don't like interracial marriages. It's not just because of genetics, being annihilated. It's also because of the mindset being annihilated as well. Like, because for her to leave something like that, you have to be void of a brain. You have to be. Like, she's walking around here like the goddamn scarecrow off of Wizard of Oz. But something just struck me as Tamera being the ditzy sister out of her and Tia. And Tia was the one who was more level-headed and had her stuff on straight. Not because she married a black man, but just because she just seemed like she had her shit together. And it's, what's so crazy? When the show, if you look back on the show Sister Sister, Tia was the level-headed one. Tia was the smart one, the overachiever. Tamera was the party girl and often was like the dumb one. So it was almost like art imitating life, so to speak. Because that's exactly how she acts in real life. Like a dumb blonde. And that's probably what her husband saw in her, but he couldn't get, but he decided to settle. Like Harvey has said in his videos, I wouldn't be surprised if they get a divorce anytime soon. Because I bet you that marriage just seems like it's like in shambles. But I'm going to end the video right here. Y'all let me know what you think down in the comments. Like, comment, share, subscribe. If you would like to donate to the channel, the PayPal and the Patreon links are down below. I'll talk to you in the next one.